All right. We are live, and the New York Mets won a game over the weekend. That's right. The New York Metropolitans won a baseball game. They beat another team that also plays in the major leagues, which is a big step forward considering where we were before that. They lost the series to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have made it clear they are a better team right now than the New York Mets. But I'm just grasping at straws right now, boys. I have nowhere to go. Back when we used to do this and the Mets would have weekends or runs like they just had, the stadium would light on fire. Mr. Met would flip a fan off. We had like the absurdity, there's the good, the bad, but then the ugly would come in and we could make an entire episode about that. Right now, we're just going to talk about a bad baseball team. And we're going to try to, there's potentially some good news coming in the future. But right now, we are in a bad place, my friends. How you doing, Kyle?
It's boring baseball, so it's like that much more difficult to watch. Yesterday's game was just completely awful. I'm going to just toss that out. 3 hits is garbage. McNeil had a home run, so I guess we got that going for us. Got showing some power lately. But aside from Senga and Canna carrying us, this is bad. Phil?
This sucks. I'm just going to say this sucks. This is I mean, like Clem said, it's like we used to have like the ugly, like crazy shit happening off the field. It's like we're just boring. We don't have like anal fissures or valley fever or wild boars. Like maybe that's a good thing, but I mean, this is just awful. I remember I tweeted out yesterday. It's like, why couldn't I grow up rooting for a team that like when they lose, no one cares about them, like the Tigers or Mississippi State football. It's like those teams lose like hundreds of times every year and no one cares, but for us it's a national story.
Yep. It always feels like they're in the mix even when everyone says they stink, and then when we're good it's like you can't be excited. Why are you guys so excited about it? It's like because we sucked for so fucking long and everyone hates us. It is one of those weird things. And Phil, you said it last week too. I was in that mode this morning. I'm like, man, what do people do who just like don't follow sports?
They're the happiest people ever. They'll put on a movie or it's like And that's their day. Or like they'll watch a program like in words of Rico Bosco. Like the happiest people in the world are people that don't follow sports. Because we could have maybe six months of the year of absolutely hating this team for what's the payoff? 3 weeks of happiness? Maybe? Like that's the absolute best outcome.
If everything goes right, maybe once every 20 to 30 years you might get those 3 weeks of happiness, right? And you have to basically live off that forever. Now, I will say, like, even though there were some dark days the last, 5 years or whatever, we got that as Giants fans with the 07 Giants. And that could you could just, live off that. Kyle, when he had the Packers Super Bowl, you can live off that. But, man, it is the fucking worst journey. And this is why when people ask me, hey, Clem, if you could choose any of your teams to win the championship, what would you choose? And it's the Mets, because you do this every single year. And when I guess the Knicks are kind of in the same boat where it's just LOL Knicks, LOL Mets. But, man, 162, especially when you're sharing a city with someone that always wins, or at least used to always win, it is fucking tough, man. And it builds character, Phil, though. It builds character, right? That's what we say to ourselves in moments like this.
I would say at least when the Knicks lose, it's like, maybe they'll win the lottery this year, or maybe they'll get this new shiny draft pick, or maybe a star will come here. When we lose, it just sucks. We're not sitting there saying, damn, who are we going to take 38th in the draft now?
We're 3 games out of the wild card, out of the last spot, right? So now it starts creeping in, too, where it's like, this is supposed to be the new age Mets. We're not supposed to have to worry. We're supposed to have sustained success, infrastructure, all that stuff we've been preaching for this entire time. And we're still kind of in that weird limbo where it's like we make the postseason because it's wild card, and then the next year you don't. And then it's a long stretch of not making it, and you have to wait to see when you're going to get back again. And I just thought we were done with that after last season, because they brought back essentially the same exact fucking team, and nobody's performing up to the par of what they were, except for Alonso, who's now hurt, and Francisco Alvarez. It's hard to be any type of positive when you know what this team could have potentially been and what they've done so far. Because I look at the Pirates and I'm like, that team sucks. And then you look at their record and you're like, no, they're better than we are. They have a better record. They've had better runs. They at least get their fan base excited. If you're showing up to the Pittsburgh Pirates game in and game out, they are the Met fan who's just appreciating the fact that their team's playing quality baseball, whereas we're the ones going, this should be a quality team, and they're not performing.
Yeah. Jeff McNeil hitting that home run yesterday. It was like, I was like, oh my God. So I didn't even see the home run live. I left the room. I go on Twitter and I see Phil tweets a picture of like head explosion.
Yes.
And I'm like, what could have happened for this? And then it was a Jeff McNeil home run. I'm like, that is the correct response to a Jeff McNeil home run.
Honestly, I'm not even going to count the run because Gary Cohen didn't even call it well enough. He just called us like a normal fly ball. So I might as well not even count it.
You know what? We're all down in the dumps right now, and like we all feel like shit. So I'm just gonna say it. We've all thought it. Gary's lost. He's lost a couple miles per hour.
There was one ball in like the series where I was like, "Oh, Canna ripped one to right field," and the ball's like 50 feet foul or something. Like,
or the ball that didn't even make it to the warning track, and I'm like getting pumped up, and then I'm like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Yeah, we discounted it for like there was the COVID thing. They were watching from home, and then at some point, Gary was at the games, and he was still making the calls like he was on his couch at home. So we won't have to go into things, but I like it's something that we have to bring up. This is all about all things Mets, and our boy Gary, I think, has lost like. It's kind of like our two aces right now, where it's like, is he all right? Is he going to be all right? Or is this, the beginning of the end for him right here? But a goddamn atrocity of a weekend. I told you guys, I came back from Chicago on Friday night. I was putting the kids down. As I put the kids down, I passed out. I woke up at about 11:30 or so, and I was pissed because that was NBA. That was that game 4 of the finals that night on Friday? And I was fucking pissed because I wanted to watch the Mets and I wanted to watch the finals. I miss them both. And all I see is a text. And it says like, well, by the look of this score, it's like I almost fell off my chair. And I'm like, what does that even mean? 14-7. A motherfucking football score dropped on us by the Steelers on fucking Friday night. What the fuck is going on here? Tyler McGill just fucking... I'm done, man. I can't even get excited about McGill. At this point, I'm honestly like, just throw Peterson. Is Peterson still dealing in the minors?
Oh, you
No? Okay, so don't even bring Peterson back. Bring the hell up.
Do you want me to read out like his box score of his last start, like Mike Mayer said? I think it was like along the lines of like 2/3 of an innings pitched, 39 pitches, like no case.
He went Steven Matz. He went full Steven Matz on us in
AAA. It was
no hope in sight. There's nobody.
It's like, oh, he's like 5 innings, 3 runs in the minors or something. It's like, no, he's not even doing anything. He's broken.
Oh, he is fucking broken. So Tyler McGill, just absolutely, and like you start the new series and you're like, all right, it's Pittsburgh. Maybe we can go out, get a win. And you're just dead in the water from the jump, basically. McGill does you nothing. The bullpen has to get in, gets their shit pushed in. 5-run third. Oh, just an absolute goddamn number. 3 2/3, 7 earned, 1. I saw Frank called like the stat line exactly, which is hilarious.
I know.
Time traveler, Frank. Good work on the tank on that one. But then to really fuck with you, kind of like how this team will put that rally together in the ninth and come up. On Saturday, they go out, 5-1 win. You're feeling fucking good. You hear about Buck had the closed door meeting, and you're like, all right, maybe this is going to be what turns it around. Maybe we take the series against the Pirates. And hey, sometimes the Subway Series has like spurred the Mets onto like a nice little run here. So you win 5-1, and then 2-1 yesterday. Absolute dog shit. KFC actually hit us up in the text and was like, I thought it was a night game. He missed the entire 5-1 win. And that's like the best, isn't it? It's like when you find a 20 in your fucking pocket, even though you should love watching these games, it's not about watching the games. It's about the result when it all is said and done. And I was happy for him. And I'm like, dude, you can't watch any more baseball games. And I pray to God he didn't watch yesterday because that was everything. When the pitching does show up, that is how we lose the game.
Now I kind of wish he did watch yesterday just because we could blame him for it.
Yeah, exactly. Just misery loves company too. I like want him to suffer just like we're suffering.
Cookie didn't make it 5 innings, but it was still a 2-1 ball game. So it's like, what more can you, even when the pitching doesn't show up, the relievers come in and shut the door, and then we have 3 fucking hits. Like, what? I saw everyone's harping on Lindor. And then you look at his like contact numbers and everything like that. And like his Ks are trending up. Like that's not for a discussion. He just isn't making contact the way that he was. And you can't really bat that guy in the heart of the order if day after day he's hitting 2-something with how many home runs does he have?
12. But I mean, like, It's not like you have any other options right now without Pete. Like, what, Tommy
No,
Pham
but
and
I'm
Mark
just saying,
Cannon
like,
are
that's the
carrying
guy
the
we're
offense.
relying on, and
Yeah.
that's what he's coming through with.
I honestly don't know, like, how you can like, mess up this lineup anymore, like, without Pete. It's like, you already have Francisco Alvarez hitting second. Can you bat him twice in the same lineup, maybe?
I'm convinced the fucking Braves used to do that with Freeman. He would just come up every other fucking at bat. I'm like, this guy is fucking just lives in the batter's box. What's going on here? How is Canna batting ninth ever? He's the only guy with a pulse half these fucking games. It's ridiculous.
He's the only one that's hitting 300 in like the recent stretch. He's hitting like 297 or whatever it is. And you know when things are going bad is that we've called up 3 of the guys that everybody was screaming for us to call up, and now the rumor mill's starting, and it's just the Mets putting out some disinformation of like, oh, well, let's just distract him with Mauricio for a little bit to try to get the fan base excited again. What are we doing?
Yep. So you guys saw that, right? Who was it?
Carlos Baerga.
Baerga?
Baerga.
Oh, goddamn. Phil's too young for Carlos Baerga.
That's what I mean. Like, I can't pronounce his name. I don't have that burned in my memory.
Yeah, he's had a lot wrong. Did he have the Correa? He
had Correa, he had Verlander too.
Okay. So they're
now I kind of like am mad at him for having Verlander right, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even like have an opinion about Mauricio, but like at least Vientos is getting the at bats now. It's like the fucking, soul for a soul. We got Vientos in the lineup to see what he has, but it's because Pete's fucking hand is broken or whatever it is. Batting 167 right now. And it's like, it's so early in his career, but this is what happens. Sometimes the 24-year-old potential quadruple A kid may not be the answer to it all, right? And we're kind of just seeing it all play out right now. Boys, I'm at a loss. Now, were you guys after that win on Saturday and the pitching good on Sunday, in the beginning at least, before it was apparent the offense didn't show up? Were you like, all right, this is it right now? I honestly thought the closed door meeting was going to turn the juju around. I'm a juju guy. I always look for postmarks in the season, like DVD moments, like Kev says with the Boston fans. That's like, all right, this is when it all started. I was all the way back in, and I feel like a goddamn chump. Were both of you wise to it?
I'm not getting back in until they win like 5 in a row.
That's fair.
I think everybody would be smart to disassociate with the team. Like, it's background noise. It's white noise the whole way through. My eyes have glazed over. And then when we get to, like, the nitty-gritty innings, if we're still in it, then I'm like, okay, now I'll invest. But I've built up so much, like, insulation between me and this ball club at this point because they've done nothing to earn the trust of being like, this team is going to – last year's team would come back or would at least fight until the 9th inning. Whereas we've had years in the past where it's like, if the other team scores 3 runs, you're already turning it off. You're like, there's no way that they're going to score. There's no way they're putting in the effort. And like, that's the biggest difference between last year and this year is like, it's not a complete ball game. Even when they lost, it was still enough where you're like, all right, there's a few things you could build off of. Not so much here.
1 minute. Can I say something? You said the game's over this year when it's down 3-0. There was a story. I remember I was going through my photos because I'm a sicko, and I found an old article from Buck last year where before our Sandy Alcantara game, when he was like the Cy Young, Buck told the guys, like, we have no chance versus this guy. We're probably going to lose. Just go out there and appreciate him. And they came back 3-0 versus Sandy Alcantara in the first inning. Now it's like, if Buck has that speech, they're probably going to think it's true, and they're just going to go out there and lose.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's a fair point. And again, that's why I know it's the fire Buck movement is big. And Cohen came out and he said, hey, we're not looking to make any major changes right now, kind of tweak what it is, which I think Steve Cohen, if anything, is proved not to be a knee-jerk kind of guy. He's not going to go based on what's the word I'm looking for? Emotions. I think that's when signing Jacob deGrom, that's an emotion thing, ignoring the Correa stuff, ignoring the Kumar Rocker stuff. We talked about that last week. I think it's much more of a numbers thing. I have to hope Buck has something in him, even if he's throwing shit against the wall or, like you said, the next Alcantara speech or whatever it may be. But we are kind of all getting to the point. I saw, we got tweeted out by that guy, Will, was asking, like, I'm kind of just don't care anymore in the mornings when I wake up and I kind of just, it's all gray. That's tonsillitis. Those are symptoms of tonsillitis. When you just truly stop caring, that's when you say it's a tonsil, you're out, and you do not give a fuck, and you're just going to let everything play out as it may, right? So, to everyone who fucking has that.
When I go to sleep, I'm like pissed, and I wake up, I'm feeling happy, and then I remember it's like, fuck, the Mets are just bad, and then I'm just ruins my day.
Yep.
I just posted the life cycle of a Mets fan on the Instagram account, and if you guys aren't following, go follow. We got to believe on Instagram, but it's just like every clip of The Office of them dealing with like having to go into the office and office life. Like this feels like work at this point. It is. I need energy. I need to have a cup of coffee just to get through these games because it's not fun. This is supposed to be the escape from like your regular life and like the family and everything else. And you just try to like relax for a little bit. And it causes more frustration than anything else at this point. And like, what are we at? Game 65, 66 is going to be tomorrow or 67. Like we still have so many ball games left where if they don't do something dramatic to turn June around, we're not going to have a July and August because then we're going to be sellers. We're going to be looking up from the basement.
Yeah. Who do we even have to sell? That's the other part.
Yeah.
It's like people keep saying, the Mets going to be sellers. It's like, what player on this team would another team actually want?
Robertson.
Somebody that we're willing to part with.
Robertson's the only guy.
Max isn't pitching good enough to be sold. Verlander ain't pitching good enough to be sold.
Yeah.
If you had told us before the season on June 12th we'd be talking about the possibility of the Mets being sellers, I would have said, "Oh, fuck,
like, yeah, we don't, like, what are we gonna do? Get some 26-year-old in Double-A that can't find a strike zone for like one of these guys?"
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair. Sometimes I wish I could just retire from being a Mets fan, if we're being honest, and I could do that if they could ever win a World Series. But I am stubborn. I will never let myself do that. But one day, I will be able to retire from work, from maybe podcasting about the Mets every single day. Everyone thinks about the day they'll eventually get to retire and enjoy all the freedom that comes with it. But who says we have to wait decades before we kick back and chill out? So take advantage of that free will and spend the summer chilling like a retiree and pair those moments with the Coors Light, the beer that's made to chill. It's the beer that's made to chill, pairs well with a retired state of mind. Like you said, Kunsthalina, that's the retired state of mind right there. Cohen line is kind of another version of that, but Kunsthalina even more so. The mounds on the bottles and cans turn blue when your beer is cold, so you know when it's time to grab another. So perfect. It's perfect for all your summer plans or lack thereof. No judgment here. We love Coors Light. It's getting us through the good, the bad, and the ugly here in Metsland. So this summer, chill like you're retired with Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/believe. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. So we have the Yankee series coming up tomorrow. Pete has his comedy show tonight. Brutal timing for our guy Pete. Pete's hurt. The Mets are hurting, and the Yankees are coming to town tomorrow. I guess they're kind of in the town, but whatever. They're coming to Queens. Our boy Pete I just feel bad for him. Hopefully it all works out tonight. I know Kev's going there. Obviously Frank's going to be there and should get some good quotes out of it. Last year, the comedy thing was when Pete said hitting's like sex or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes. And then he immediately went into it.
We'll see.
Maybe the pitchers can listen too. It's like if you're not thinking when you're pitching, you're not thinking when you're fucking or something, and they start finding the strike zone.
Maybe like two negatives make a positive. Maybe like last year everything was good, that happened, and then he went in the tank. Maybe this is the thing that turns it all around. I can't even say it with a straight face. Our two aces are on the mound. It's not true. It's like our two sixes. They're like sixes in a deck of cards if you're lucky, right?
So I'm going to have a prediction for you for the Subway Series for the next week. So what's going to happen? I am pretty confident that Max Scherzer is going to dominate on Tuesday. I'm pretty confident Verlander is going to dominate Wednesday because, it's every other start for him. I think we end up we sweep the Yankees, go 2-0, and then we're going to get swept by the Cardinals who throw out Adam Wainwright, Miles Michaelis. Maybe Steven Matz will come out the bullpen and pitch an immaculate inning. Because they'll be so high up on a Subway Series and it's like, this is the thing. This is the thing that's going to turn us around. And then it's going to come down again. That's why I can't get high on this team because I keep thinking, when's the shoe going to drop?
Yeah, no, it's fair. And then even if they go out, if you tell me Scherzer and Verlander deal, but the offense doesn't show up, it doesn't fucking matter because they have Severino going the first night, but then Cole's going the second night.
And both those pitchers are pretty bad right now too. Like Garrett Cole isn't that great this year, and Luis Severino's gotten knocked around his last two starts.
It's crazy to say. A lot of people in New York right now are like, so what's going on in training camp with the Giants and the Jets right now? Like Saquon's getting a lot. Like, who gives a fuck? He cannot go to minicamp until he signs the franchise tag. But everyone's talking about it because there's no fun baseball to talk about right now, basically. So
both teams are 9.5 back.
Is that true?
We definitely have a worse record, but like,
if we were 38-29, like we'd be over the moon right now.
And I mean, I don't even want to like get. I mean, we'll obviously talk about it next week, and maybe even a little the next episode. St. Louis after this Yankees thing, like after this Yankees series, like Phil said, and then, boys, I didn't even see this on the schedule. I thought this was later in the year. We're going to Houston after this team. Honestly, if this team plays like they did over the next 5 games, the way they have the last week, they shouldn't be allowed in Houston. It should be like if you forgot your passport, they'd be like, turn around. You are not a Major League Baseball club. You do not get to play this. And I know Houston's not what they were like every other season. What are they right now? They're 37-29. So I'm sure they'll get
the thing with Houston is Yordan Alvarez is also out for them right now, which obviously is a big thing. But whoever they plug in will probably end up having 3 hits anyway.
He'll win Rookie of the Year and win World Series MVP again.
Exactly.
It is kind of weird too that this series was without Pete and Judge. So it's like the 2 guys that were doing whatever they could to just carry these fucking offenses. I kind of hope it is like 2-1 and 1-0 are the 2 games, and it's like 6 hits combined, and we could just all just stew in misery together. Fuck it, split the series. Give me a series split right now. 3 total runs scored, 6 hits, and we're all just fucking miserable. I had someone, Stephanie, hit me up on Twitter, and she's like, Clem, we need you in the Mets community. It's like we need some sponsors in there. And I said, we basically created a Skid Row, and we just left it. Like that has anyone gone to the Mets community in the last week? Because I can only imagine.
I now want to open it.
So, and this is something I was like advertising. The community has like a bug in it. So there's like 20. I don't even know how many tweets have been reported. I can't go in and look at them. It
crashes
your phone, right? Yeah, that's so wild for me.
The community has become self-aware and it's just eating itself and there's nothing we can do about it. So I'm just sitting by. It's like watching a car crash as you're driving by. And it's like, best of luck, buddy. I hope it ends up well for you. But that community is like the most vile place in the world.
It came from a good place when we made it, and boy, did it all go to shit, right? It's kind of like the Mets. The Mets were created from a place to bring Giants fans and Dodgers fans who lost their teams to fucking California. And it's like, let's just bring this. We could bring love back to New York, bring baseball for people that don't want to be Yankee fans back to New York. And then the 62 Mets came out of it, and the 63 Mets, the 64. At some point, though, there has to be a 69 Mets. At some point, we have to get to the point where all this is worth our suffering, right? And then, you guys are a little younger and in better shape than me. You start wondering, am I going to live to see my 69 Mets, my 86 Mets? And I'm starting to think the answer is no right now.
I had this conversation literally yesterday. I was talking to someone from Chicago, and they were saying how the city was so impossible to get around during the parade day. And I was like, yeah, it was 108 years. Like that, they didn't win the championship. And then like slowly under my breath, I was like, I might die and never watch my team win a championship. Coming to it.
It's tough, man. And again,
it's
like
scary.
I'm believing in Cohen. I think everything's going to work out in the end. It's 37 years right now. I just had to plug in the calculator to do the math on the fly there. It's tough. Now, again, potentially good news on the horizons. Now, I'm going to preface this with saying, reported by Bob Nightingale, who is the least trustworthy. I would rather, like, fucking my son come home from school and say, hey, I heard the Mets are bringing in David Stearns at the end of the year. Nonetheless, I just need one other person. If for nothing else, we have someone else to blame other than Billy Epler for everyone who was under contract for this team just not hitting this season, or future Hall of Fame pitchers just not pitching this season.
And look, this David Stearns thing has been a rumor for 2 years because they originally wanted him to be at a GM, but he was being held hostage by their cheap owner, Milwaukee, and they couldn't get him out of his contract. So Stearns stepped down, took an advisor role. I mean, I've been hearing about this through other back channels for like a year now. It's like, oh, Stearns, I'd be surprised if he isn't a Met when his contract is up. So,
okay. So it'll just be nice to get that stability. And I don't know if would you now him and Epler are like boys, right? That's where this all stems from as well. So Epler's staying more than likely if he comes in. It's not like we're gonna start.
You'd probably have Stearns as like the president of baseball operations.
Yeah, I think Sandy leaves.
Yeah, and that's the craziest thing is we're in year, I mean, is it technically year 3 of Cohen, right? 21, 22, 23. And he kind of picked up right before the 21 season, but still, we'll say year 3. And he's like, doesn't have a real baseball structure because of all the interviews that were blocked and all that kind of stuff. This at least gives us everything from the top on down. Because remember, when we're talking about like, oh, the Lindor trade, it's like, who made the Lindor trade again? Was it the pervert? Was it the drunk?
Yeah.
And you're just like, was it Sandy who was before both of them? It's been so fucked. It'll just be nice to have an actual power structure. I mean, we know how it is at Barstool. It's like, who's your boss? I don't know. None of us know who our bosses are for them. Like, Dave was my boss on the org chart for years. I don't think Dave could have told one thing I did for half that time. So it's just one of those crazy things that hopefully is being alleviated. And from everything I've heard about Stearns, he's fucking awesome, right?
Yeah. People try to give him shit for it's like, oh, the Christian Yelich contract is bad. It's like Christian Yelich was a great player until he broke his leg. Like, it's just really like some things you can't get blamed for. His worst
blames anyone for any of that stuff. It's like all you can do is look at the numbers and try to extrapolate what's that going to look like down the road. Like at the end of the day, the player on the field has to perform. If you're doing like the little ticky-tack stuff where you're finding these diamonds in the rough like the Rays do, like that's going above and beyond your job. Everyone that's screaming about Epler and Buck and everybody else, it's like he can build the team, and it looked like it was a good team on paper. Buck can set the lineup, which nobody agrees with, but who gives a shit? The players still have to go out and perform. And at the end of the day, it's not really either of those guys' fault.
Yes, when you sign 2 Hall of Fame pitchers, you expect them to pitch like 2 Hall of Fame pitchers.
Correct. And as we said, though, before the season started, for everyone's going to be like, well, you guys, like we also said, there's also a chance because they're old as shit. They just might start to slip a little, and that could definitely be going on. One guy who is not slipped and who is most certainly not old, we got to shout this out. Francisco Alvarez, until yesterday when fucking Salvador Perez hit a home run, was tied for the league lead in home runs by a catcher in like 80 less at-bats than I think it was Perez and Sean Murphy, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about him last episode. He's everything. Like, he's the one reason to tune in the Mets games for Alan. It's the only real reason to turn it on. I can't believe he's 21 years old. He's our little baby. Now, I did have someone say, like, pump your brakes. Gary Sanchez was like the next great thing until he wasn't. That does scare the shit out of me because he saw it.
And then Gary Sanchez hitting 4 home runs for the Padres. It's like, oh, maybe they were right all along.
Yeah, I'm like, did these guys have it all fucking like worked out and it just was just shit timing or whatever? And it's like he just did all the other Gary Sanchez stuff as well that drove you nuts. It's like, if you're not gonna hit bombs, dude, you got to get the fuck out of here. I mean, we got rid of and our boy Nito through waivers. He's up in Syracuse now, right?
Yep.
That's almost sadder than him leaving. It's him having to come back, right?
Yeah, it's like all 29 teams look at you and say, we don't want you. It's like, that's got to be like a gut punch.
We tried to get rid of you. It turns out nobody wants you.
And that's like when people say, like, oh, it's like we have guys who are so bad, and now it's like, and he'll probably be up here at some other point as well. And like Narvaez, I don't feel like Narvaez is like this automatic. Especially when you go from Alvarez to Narvaez, you're like, this guy is such a whatever dude. You know what I mean? Mm. So at least Nito had kind of the like, he's our home guy. We love him, and he, you know, had his core. He was a funny dude. He seemed like a nice guy. So he's back with the club now. I love having Guillorme up in the majors at least as a glove. But it's kind of just with everything. Everything is just blah. Even like when Beatty's just like lazily flying at him, just like, what the fuck are we doing right now? Like, we're just going down. But I guess it's better to go down with your kids as they grow, and then hopefully by next year, this was the bridge to like when we can start cooking. I don't know. Kyle's having like a breakdown right now.
You said Guillorme, and I immediately just got re-triggered from the pinch hit yesterday.
Oh, that was bad.
Dude,
that was bad.
First of all, people are going to question you pinch hitting in the first place for Vientos, but then you get called out on strikes on a pitch clock violation. Even Buck, who's like, I need to be everyone's friend and all the players and everything like that. He's like, that's absolutely unacceptable. Like, what the fuck?
And that's the other thing with this team. It's like there's like a mental error or two every single game, which we weren't having last year.
Or a physical error with Lindor, too. Same thing.
Yeah, man.
Taylor made double play, and we're going to lose that game anyway. But 5 runs come from that. It's like, yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, that game ended in the 3rd inning.
You got the Gucci glove that he's promoting before the game starts, and I know Frank was screaming about that, but he actually didn't have that glove on at the time. But still, it's like these guys, I know they want to build their brands and do all that kind of shit, but like that only flies when you're winning. Same thing happened when Pete came up and won the Rookie of the Year, and then he came out with his YouTube channel the next year, and we sucked. And it's like, you guys can't be doing this unless you're going to perform on the field.
That's the shitty part of being a baseball player. So you can do that in other sports, and like people will watch it. In baseball, it's like no one's going to care.
Yeah, and I don't know, because obviously all I root for is New York teams, but I don't know if that's a New York thing where you get on, you're like, all right, time to capitalize now while the iron's hot. I feel like maybe in other places they wait a few years for sustained success, maybe because they're not in big of a market. And it's like, because every single time it's like I feel like we have the guy who shows up, he plays well, and then the next year he does bad. And again, this might just being a Mets fan, a Knicks fan, whatever it may be. And then it's just like, well, now I have to watch your commercial and you fucking suck. It's kind of like the Baker Mayfield thing on a much smaller scale, where he has 1,000 fucking insurance commercials every Sunday and he can't even start for his team, right?
It's like when they play the commercial now, it's like that one comeback they had versus the Rays and Guardians, where it's like, come see the Kansas City Field. It's like, well, Mark Vientos hasn't hit a home run since that game.
Yeah.
I don't know if Brett Beatty's hit a home run since that game.
Brett Beatty.
Beatty's a tough.
Has not hit a home run since that game.
He doesn't look bad at the plate at all.
You look at his numbers, it's like, well, he's worse than Eduardo Escobar right now.
And that's the thing. It's like the strangest. The eye test alone, you're like, okay, like his swing looks fine. Doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. He's just not getting hits.
And I guess part of me is at least people can't pick on that anymore. It's like, bring the kids up. The kids are up. They're struggling. But I just want to win. So play whoever the fuck's going to like get the wins. But again, I don't think pinch hitting Luis Guillorme in a big spot is, and they have the pitch clock in AAA, right? It's not like he forgot.
It was in AAA last year.
Yeah, it was there first. They test everything out there. So, and that's not Louis too. Louis always like the smart guy. He's the one who would find a way to use the pitch clock to his advantage. So, like you said, it's errors like that. It's errors literally in the field. It's base running shit. It just drives you fucking bonkers. Ellie De La Cruz, I think he's basically the official non-Met of the podcast right now. Said he was the fastest man on earth, ran through a stop sign, still got home. He's awesome. I'm gonna just act like he's a Met pretty soon. Like we'll do the Francisco Alvarez update, and then we're gonna do the Ellie De La Cruz update every single week because that's so much fun. And the Reds are better than us now, right? Are the Reds better?
Same record, but in my mind they're a better team. So
yes.
I mean the Oakland A's are on a 5-game winning streak, so in my mind they're a better team right now.
Oh man,
that's the thing. You go back to even that series. We could have lost that whole series. We could have got swept ourselves.
Don't bring that one back up, Kyle.
No, we're not bringing it back.
And it could be so much worse.
I am not giving back any fucking wins this year. I know Frank tried to say that was a
sweep.
Yeah, moral sweep or whatever, and we swept them. Like this team needs every goddamn win we could get. We cannot give any of them back. So hopefully it starts again tomorrow. The Yankees, they lost last night, right?
They're just on a 2-4 homestand versus the White Sox and Red Sox. Yep. And they don't have Aaron Judge, so it's who is in that lineup going to hurt you. We're going to find out the next 2 days, probably.
Oh, man. It's so funny.
You know who's in the Yankees lineup right now? Our old friend Billy McKinney.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that. I heard he's looking pretty good, too. Second in the team in OPS. Granted, it's only after 17 at-bats, but he's second behind Aaron Judge in OPS. That is a true fucking fact. Billy McKinney has a home run, too, so shout out Billy McKinney.
Are we going around the league, former Mets? Because Travis Jankowski is the top of the list by far.
Is he really?
You know what he's doing out there? I know it's Texas, so no one's paying attention.
I think he's still hitting like 300, I think.
289. Stud.
Epler knows where to find him. He just can't get him to perform here. And then they go somewhere else where it's all Gary.
The Rangers lineup up and down. It's like 0 holes. I honestly want to like research what a team's record is with Jacob deGrom on the IL the past 2 seasons. It's probably like a 700 winning percentage.
Yeah.
So this was the Yankees lineup last night as we preview the next series. Phil, this was their lineup last night. Tell me, is Willie Calhoun the leadoff hitter for the Yankees usually?
He's either hitting leadoff or third. So
Gleyber Torres. Honestly,
he's usually lead off. Yeah.
I thought Gleyber. I didn't even know Gleyber was still on the team. Rizzo.
Rizzo's in like a 1 for 30 right now. So
his back must be acting up. I had him in fantasy. When his backache flares up, you're fucked for like a month, basically. Donaldson batting 143. He must be their guy. That's like the one everyone. That's their Vogelback right now. I would imagine. Is that fair to say?
Yep, and because you have Peraza in AAA.
Oh, okay. Oh, our guy Peraza, I love him. Bowers, Bowers in left, and we moved to right during the game last night. Jake Bowers. Let's see. DJ LeMahieu, the machine.
He's been awful this year.
236. McKinney, 294. There's your bright spot in the lineup, Billy McKinney. Jose Trevino, catcher, okay, whatever. And then Oswaldo Cabrera, batting 196 at the bottom of the lineup. And then Volpe, who's obviously their guy.
And Anthony Volpe, who their fans were just like, oh, call him up right out of spring training. Same thing as like Brett Beatty right now, where it's like, oh, maybe he's just not that good right now. Like, he's not a bust, but
they
he's
were
not good.
him as like the next coming of Derek Jeter, so it's like the expectations can be higher.
And Stanton is healthy, so we'll probably see him at some point during. It's crazy how Stanton, like, you were so scared of him going to the Yankees, the whole thing where Jeter kind of just pushes him to New York, and it's kind of just fizzled out so far. So there's your update on the Yankees.
Last though at the Acela Club or whatever the name of the Caesars, whatever it's called now, I don't even know. But he regularly hits a home run off that glass when he's playing us.
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. So I guess we'll see how it goes starting Tuesday night in the Bronx. Scherzer, Severino, Verlander, Cole. And you said Cole's had a little bit of a bumpy path here the last couple of games.
He doesn't have his slider this year, so it's kind of been bothering him.
G. Willikers. Was it G. Willikers? What was his saying?
Cole?
When he was like, for Pete's sake.
There we go.
Oh, God. So, yeah, hopefully we'll have a nice long pregame ceremony, first pitch, all that kind of shit, which will completely get in his head. And we'll see where we go from here, boys. I don't have high expectations, but at the end of the day, because we're fucking morons, gotta believe.
Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.